Just look.
So we're gonna begin the work session, August 16th. We'll begin with the debrief of the 4th of July events. I would ask to limit the comments from each organization to roughly 5 minutes to kind of help with the movement of the meeting. To start off, reporting will be Natalie with the CAC.
Oh, thanks, Brian. Do I have to stand or can I sit?
You can sit.
Okay.
And this is just going to be the basic reporting, and then
Yeah.
after this, we'll bring the CAC to the table.
Yeah.
And then we'll discuss things further. But this would
Okay.
just be the basic report.
I'll just say what I said with our debriefing, because
Yeah,
I
that'll work.
summarized everything that was with the survey and with the board too. So most of the comments that were made in the survey and what we heard on the 4th of July were extend the parade routes, have throwers, have enough for the people at the end. Because a lot of them dish out at the beginning and the middle, but then the people at the far end kind of get, mixed out. Want it back downtown. And we discussed Cleveland Avenue, Library Park, or the new high school. And we have updates on that, but that's not at this meeting. More food trucks, meals, not snacks. We do have an update about the 3 food trucks who didn't show up and the 2 that left early, but it's, I don't think I can discuss that right now. I mean, that's more of a detailed thing. More shade canopies. We did look into pricing for that. For future events, didn't like the event split up. We have a reason for that. Have teen and adult type games instead of just for kids. And advertise the shuttle schedule better, and this year was more of a trial run to see how well it will fare. And as far as the more food trucks and meals and for meals, suggestion was reach out to nonprofit groups or churches to cook and sell burgers and hot dogs at a booth.
Next one will be Livermore County Sheriff's Office. Sergeant.
No, hold on. Hold on, I have to share my screen, not really.
He has a PowerPoint. for it.
Yes. Sure, let's try again. Hold on. Sorry, guys. Haven't had to do this in a long time.
It's all good.
That's okay. I can go with that.
Okay, I'm just having, it's right here, but I can't get it up. See? It's like on the side. It did. I'm not losing my mind, not just me.
That's okay.
Okay, you want to get started?
Sure.
Sorry.
All right, so for the 4th of July, staffing wise, for the parade and outlying areas, we dedicated 2 supervisors, 4 full-time deputies, 7 reserve deputies, 5 cadets. And within that, we had 5 out on bike patrol and the 5 cadets assigned just for the public safety for the parade itself. Throughout the day in the festival, we had 2 reserve deputies assigned on foot in the festival. For patrol coverage for the town, we had a 2-man day shift car, a 2-man car that came in at noon, then our normal power shift car deputy that came in, and our swing shift deputy that came in at $1,600. Staffing for that evening was increased over last year. The year before in 2021, we had 2 cars for the night shift. We had that up to 5 cars, a sergeant, a corporal, a trainee and a deputy and two reserve man cars up here. Just to help with the festival and with some of the calls we were getting. We were initially told that they didn't need us for any kind of traffic control or assistance with the parking in the beginning. But that caused some additional problems with just the parking and emergency vehicle being able to get through there. So we assisted a little bit, then transitioned several of those cars at the end just to get the vehicle traffic out of there. So 4 deputies transitioned at the end of the night to just help with that traffic flow and get people out of there safely. After that, after we got the traffic out, they transitioned back into fireworks patrols. Shift to the next screen. Whatever. So in 2021, this was our call load for fireworks complaints. Typically, the sheriff's office in the past and in this year in the general county, we put in fireworks calls. And we pinned in our pending queue for 30 minutes. And if a deputy doesn't have time or that district doesn't have time, they clear out of there. And if we get multiple calls, that's when they'll stay in there. But a lot of times when a call comes in, our deputies may be tied up on work in an actual assault case or something like that, and they be tied up for a while, no responders. So instead of that pending queue that's building up all night, generally 30 minutes and they clear up. But if we get multiple calls, we'll keep them in there so we can get deputies over there. You go to the next screen, Betty, Kelly. So in 2021, this was kind of our call count for fireworks calls in the town of Wellington. So completed necessary action are kind of the same thing. We got there, we took some kind of action that is maybe an educational action or a warning of some type. Quiet upon arrival, as we get there, we look in the area or we sit in the area, we don't hear the fireworks, we don't see them. We're unable to locate, we get there. And we may be dispatched to it's coming from this address and it's actually coming from 2 or 3 blocks away, just the sounds reverberating back into that area. And we're unable to find where it's at. Let's go to the next screen, please. So these are our call logs for Wellington for 2022. So there's the first page of calls. You can go to the next screen. So 2 full pages of calls, just the call loads coming in or self-initiated where our deputies ran across something where they stopped and helped. You switch to the next screen, Colin. So 2022, we had a total of 68 total contacts or calls. Now this is kind of deceiving. It says 1 citation issued, but we actually had a total of 4 citations in the town. 3 of those wrap into the report to follow because it actually we collected evidence or something. So they're tied into reports. They don't come into our citation status. 6 completed, 7 necessary action taken. Again, we get on scene. We take some kind of action there. Again, 11 quiet upon arrival. We did a lot more, try to do a lot more of the education, verbal warnings, written warnings up to 14 and 11 this year, making those 68 contacts. If you go to the next screen, Kelly. We tried to have our deputies do some detailed call logs, even if they did the completed or citations or something in there. So if we were called back there multiple times, we could take the next step of enforcement action. And we kind of had a briefing. So if it wasn't the same deputy being called back, they had a general understanding of why we were there initially. Go to the next screen, please. Again, just kind of did putting out some of the context, some notes of why we were there, the warnings we were giving them, kind of going over how the ordinance changed of what we were allowing and what we weren't. Next screen, please. Coming, just some of our quiet upon arrivals, going in there, spending some times in the area, drove around the area, was unable to find them, no fireworks being discharged upon their arrival, spoke to family members. Trying to look into those, even we got there and we weren't observing that, spending some extra time and talking to some of the neighbors, spending some time there to see if we saw it. Next slide, please. Again, some of the unable to locate driving through the area, so quite a bit of those. Next slide, please. Verbal warnings, again, of coming in there. So if we gave them the verbal warning the first time, if we got a second officer dispatch, they can pull that up, see who we talked to, and we can take that next step into issuing a citation. Next slide. So in reviewing the calls, again, we wrote 4 citations, 11 written warnings during between the 1st and the 5th. A 5th citation was issued, but it was outside the town limits, so we didn't count that into the actual totals there. Evidence log shows we seized approximately 450 bottle rockets, over 500 firecrackers. Despite the increased number in the street, establishing probable cause is always a challenging effect because we start responding to the area, everybody says the cops are coming. So they put them away, or they start denying it, or they stop shooting the fireworks. So looking at that, increasing our bike patrols next year, trying to get into the areas a little quicker and more covert, but that presents another challenge. So it's kind of hard to seize the fireworks if our deputies are on a bike, so we can issue the citation. But that doesn't necessarily solve the problem because they can start shooting the fireworks again as soon as we leave. Again, we reiterated, although typically our calls for service cancel out after 30 minutes, no calls for service in the town of Wellington were canceled out. Thanks to the Board of Trustees, deputies were able to respond to legitimate calls of illegal fireworks. The ones that were leaving the ground was a huge benefit on a response. Again, the fireworks still pose a significant problem. They were quickly overwhelmed by those number of calls you saw on those first 2 slides coming in. Just a few minutes apart, every single one, and how do you get the resources there in time to deal with it without, having 30 to 40 deputies up here just handling every single call that comes out minutes or seconds upon each other. And we get to the call, and we deal with frustrated people that are irritated. We're not dealing with 3 houses down that are doing the same thing or put them away before we got there. So it's trying to balance that up and doing some of that education. Again, we tried to really improve doing some of those written warnings and entering notes in case we had that repeat offender, we could come back and move to that next level and issue the citation. So I'm hoping that we saw some productivity out of there, but again, as with the whole county, once we get into the 4th of July, the calls are just so overwhelming and frustrating. In the middle of this, on the 4th of July, we were also dealing with an assault over 2 neighbors physically fighting over fireworks. So that took a couple of those deputies out of that and the time to try to investigate that case and get a successful resolution in that case. So as you can see, we try to bring a lot of resources up here, a lot of our volunteers up here to be out there, to be a presence and to try to do some educational value, as well as some of it didn't work. We issued citations and hold them accountable for their actions. As you can see in there, that the amount of fireworks we seized and got off the streets, the amount of calls we're hopping to every few minutes. But still being able to see those and get those logged in safely, so they weren't out there on the streets being used.
Good job. Thanks.
Thank you.
Next one is going to be Chief Patterson, the fire protection.
Thank you. Thanks for trustees.
Sorry,
Trying to give me a set up there. Chief Casey is not gonna be real happy. Have a job. You left for Mexico for like 4 days and didn't have a job. Yeah, sorry about that, Chief.
Funny.
But yeah, thank you, trustee members and CAC members for letting me make a brief presentation. I too will kind of jump on. We did provide some written information for the July 5th debriefing, and I wasn't able to attend, so I'm going to kind of jump into some of the minutes that were on there and just highlight some of those other things that were there. So one of the items in the minutes that talked about the maps and the public safety plans, and in the written letter that we provided, again, with not being at the meeting, what we provided and the way we feel is a little contrary to what was in the minutes, so I just wanted to address that. The safety plans and the maps were actually very important resources for us as a whole. The work that was put into it was super in depth, and it's very important for us. What we like to do on larger scale incidents is develop an incident action plan. So for this event, we utilize those to help develop our incident action plan. We put those together so that every vehicle, every staff member has one of these. And what's included in that starts to break down the events for the day, our priorities for the day, the time of the day when things are going to happen. And what's also included in that, what was really important for us, especially an event like this, is things like the maps that give us the idea of when the streets are going to be closed, the directions of travel, where people are going to park, where we can expect inflow and outflow of traffic. And then as it breaks down into some of the events specifically, things like the aid stations, where the entry and exits are for those, where we can expect for us to come to bring in ambulances and things like that. So I can't stress how important that is for us and that the work that the staff did put in to do that, the volunteers and the event coordinators that were doing those. So thank you for the work on that. It was important for us. So I wanted to make sure that got caught, that we do utilize those and they are important for us. And it allows us to get a historical record for how things are going to go. And as we do debriefs like this, how they're important for us from there. So thank you to the work that got done on that. One of the other items that got picked up on there was just some talk about the size of the vendor spots or maybe vendor confusion that was going on. And it really, as Captain Pettit did some of the work on there, in the minutes, we talked about us restricting the size or wanting the size to be 10 by 10, and that's not the case. We just wanted to make sure that there was confusion maybe between us doing the inspection, the vendor that was there, and maybe the individuals that helped set that up. So we just want to help be part going forward of making some of that clarification ahead of time so that whatever the size is, that the vendor knows what the size is, the tents correlate to that, and that the tents or things are within the space relative to providing that 20-foot clearance in between. So we don't want to dictate the size. We just want to help make sure that if we have some piece of that we're clear on what that is and that the vendors know that ahead of time. And so the thought about maybe having one point of contact that's in charge of all the vendors so that we can have communication with one point of contact and they have the same. So again, we don't want to dictate the size of that. We just want to help be communicative and collaborative in the process of communicating that to those that are going to come set up. One of the other points, I think, just to kind of talk about the event as a whole. First time for myself being part of the planning and execution piece, and then talking with Captain Pettit and some of the other staff that was there. We did also put on a bit of extra staff for the day just to try to deal with the normal calls for service as well as the parade and some of the other events from there. From a planning perspective, from what was presented in the incident action plans and the safety plans, we felt like the event went off really well as compared to what the plans were and what was presented to us. So we were very appreciative of the work that went on that side of it. The other side that we expect, as many know, but I think it's worth stating, is that the Fire Protection District protects 288 square miles within this area, not just the town of Wellington. So as we outlined in that, just really for an expectation piece, is that we did experience and had 4 independent EMS calls within an hour period. The first one started about 6 minutes before the parade started, and that was on the east side over in the meadows that way. Completely separate from anybody, didn't have anything to do with the parade, but that took our first ambulance and the first medical call and the first transport from there. The next one was right over by the loop stop, like 8 minutes after the parade started at 10:08. And then we had another medical call that was up on 76 and County Road 7. And then our final one was right at the tail end of the parade, right in the middle of Cleveland. So it just got to that time. So it's to be expected when you bring somewhere in the range of 12,000 people into a very small state. So it's just navigating that, besides the large fire engines that weigh about 58,000 pounds and carry 8,200 pounds of water on them just alone themselves. We did also able to put in one of the smaller SUV vehicles to help kind of navigate through that piece of it, to help position people on the north and south side of knowing the street closures, and be able to navigate through there. But even the first call that we had, dealing with kind of navigating through town, through people that are narrow streets already, no sidewalks to walk through, walking the streets, bringing kids, strollers, that kind of thing, just trying to make sure that we can see between all the cars and the little ones walking through cars and taking our time to get through and across and over and to the other side. So, but that for us went well. We also experienced the same thing, completely independent of the time of the events, but at 7 o'clock, we ran another 4 medical calls, kind of back to back in that same time frame where we were in town, north of town, and on the east side of the district there. So just important, I think, some of the discussions as we go through forward on how we kind of continue to plan for those type of things and make sure that we have enough resources to deal with the influx of people. Recognize that the challenges of getting there quickly has a different expectation. Getting there safely is more important than quickly, but we recognize that comes back. And we also recognize there's a portion of our district that isn't participating throughout the day, and we have the same obligation to serve both sides of that. So that piece of it. The last piece I'll echo just the fireworks situation. So while we don't technically have the enforcement side of it, we do the best we can to be a deterrent and driving around. So I'll echo because I spent along with staff the entire day and through the end of the fireworks time there. And you couldn't drive one street without seeing multiple groups of people doing fireworks, legal or illegal, but the illegal ones always seem to be the block or two away, and as you try to navigate through the streets and doing that, it's like, we got excited, but to actually watch somebody light a firework that's gonna leave the ground, we couldn't see that, or just a silhouette of 30 people that were all in the dark, and somebody is maybe the one doing that, so you know, we recognize that. We feel for those that it's a challenge against, but we also recognize it's a nationwide problem that everybody's dealing with, and we do have a little bit of a unique challenge that's posed to us simply from access. If we only got to drive 25 minutes up to get the illegal and insane type fireworks, if that's what we're going to be presented with, just from an access piece. So, and I think those are kind of the big parts of that. And just appreciate the opportunity to kind of provide some feedback.
Thank you. Next will be Main Streets with Anita Hardy and Nick.
Hi, thanks for having us this evening. It means I'm speaking. That's what that was. Main Street conducted their own miniature survey, not to take over what the CAC or the town did for the survey about the 4th of July's events, but just focusing kind of in our program area. And that survey was sent out via our newsletter and then directly to our business owners in our program area. So the responses that we received were minimal. As I believe a copy of that is in your packet, but we had 11 total responses. So I just want to summarize some of those responses for you, but also then some individual feedback from conversations that we've had with our business owners in the area in regards specifically to the 4th of July. Overall, the responses that we received was they really, really appreciated having an event in Centennial Park. It supported their business. It supported the downtown area. And I personally, and I believe that our board collectively will agree with this, that we have to thank the American Legion for putting this event in Centennial Park together, to bring that together. Because on top of the American Legion doing that, then our business owners in this downtown in our program area came together and worked together and put on an event in the park that was a lot of fun and really well attended. Now, I was fortunate I was able to attend both activities. But it was great to wander through and see everybody having fun there at Centennial Park and downtown. And then the influx of business then that did bring to the businesses that remained open on Cleveland Avenue throughout the day. And that feedback was evident in those survey responses as well. And being that it was in the Main Street program area, we did market and promote that event. And we worked really hard so that we could maintain the town and CAC's logo, coloring, sizes in that marketing, so we could show that cohesiveness while we were promoting not only just the town's events, but also what was happening inside of our program area. And I hope that that was well received by everybody. One of the other comments that we had received on that was to please keep the parade on Cleveland Avenue. That is a huge business day for our businesses downtown. And when that parade is there and all those people that come into our community to see this event, that's a fantastic event for Northern Colorado and for Wellington, brings people that don't necessarily recognize or remember or know that we have restaurants, that we have retail shops, and we have a great local coffee shop as well. So please keep the parade on Cleveland Avenue. We did hear some comments back that said it was, while we really enjoyed that, it was challenging and for the divisiveness. There felt like there was some division between having events in several areas. That we've had suggestions on how to maybe help bring some of that cohesiveness back that I won't go into. If you want some more information on that, we can definitely chat, but that having events in two separate areas was challenging. How do I know which one to go to? What do I do at each one? Where do I go with each event? Like I said, I felt fortunate that I personally was able to attend both. But it did present a problem, because I will say, on a personal level, both my husband and I said, where do we go first? What do we do? And so that does crop up. Some of the other feedback that we received was that the shuttle was a great idea. We really hope that, because this was its first year in implementation, that those kinks get worked out. And because that was fantastic, because that traversing across town after the parade is challenging, especially for families that have kiddos that have to get them out of vehicles, put them back into vehicles to move across town. One of the biggest comments that we received, though, was to do what we could to encourage more local vendors and more support of our local businesses, both brick and mortar and those with trucks, whether it be retail shops or food trucks. I have one very specific comment from a food truck owner that I can share here, or I can share later. In more detail, I think I'll share more later, but right now, I think in general with this one was, please find a way to better position the food trucks. Access to the food trucks this year, when lines were there, showed that the food trucks that were in the back of the parking lot at the community park, the lines were so long, looked like you couldn't get to them. So local food trucks then were losing business. And that was disappointing. So maybe find a different way to set up the food trucks for better access for them. The biggest comment that we've really heard and had feedback is, please try to find ways to keep festivities in or around the downtown area. That's really the hub of our community. So what can we do to help continue keeping activities to help businesses have people come in and out? And then also to find a way to maybe lengthen out the activities so they don't have a stop in the middle of the afternoon. And then there's hours before the fireworks. If there's maybe a way to reschedule some of the things that are happening throughout the day to continue that participation on a full day, not just in chunks and with an empty space in between. Did I miss anything? I think that was it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we the Chamber of Commerce, Christy Cannon, man.
Yes, okay. First of all, I want to thank all the volunteers. I mean, that program, that event is quite a lot to plan and to execute. And I think in general, the chamber is very appreciative of everybody's efforts, and a lot of people in this room that really were involved with it. I think also in general, what we've heard from the businesses and in general the community is that it was considered a successful event. I mean, people really enjoyed it. There were glitches, but there's always glitches with any major event that's got that many moving parts. And you try to learn, but next year it's something different, you know. I do think that the one area that clearly did not go well was the CAC involvement with downtown businesses and what was perceived as a lack of collaboration, a lack of support for local businesses. The downtown businesses critically wanted some events to take place so it didn't dry up like last year, so that people stayed in the area. And they really wanted to partner with CAC to do events to do in combination, because CAC was setting up the events at the Centennial Park, or not the Wellington Park, and then the downtown businesses wanted to keep things in the downtown area. So there was a strong desire to do that. Basically, the businesses ended up feeling like they weren't getting kind of that collaboration between the groups. So they ended up scheduling and structuring their own events, just to kind of make sure that things were going on. And that's kind of how the American Legion came in with the beer garden, and the beer garden and the American Legion was awesome. They gave booths to the local businesses to be present. So it was really, really good partnership. But I do think that the biggest disappointment that I heard from the local businesses downtown was that no matter what they felt like they tried to communicate in terms of like what they were doing with the beer garden and everything, they couldn't get CAC to kind of come on board with a combined marketing for all the events. And so I know at one point there was some feedback back and forth with Trustee Teets that she didn't really know, and the CAC didn't really know what was going on. But I do know there were businesses that posted the events within her social media posts. So there was communication about what the groups were doing, but it was very divisive, and there just wasn't strong collaboration. And I think that it left the business owners feeling like there was a lack of support from not just CAC, but also from the Board of Trustees. And some of that was added by when Trustee Gator voted down the liquor special permit for the beer garden for not legal reasons, but for, I think, personal reasons. That was perceived as a lack of support for businesses. And so I think that's important for everyone to know that that really was a kind of anger for the downtown businesses, and the feeling that the CAC and the Board of Trustees didn't support local businesses. I will say the only positive thing I saw that came out of all of that division time in a long time, all those local businesses downtown really, they gelled, they were cohesive. They actually worked really hard together to try to make things happen, and it created stronger relationships between all the businesses. And I think that was so that's the feedback we've heard in terms of like the overall summary of the meeting. Mary, what did you see on your end?
Same thing, echoing everything you're saying. You know, I think the businesses came together. And there's a lot of frustration though. It just really hurt me to see businesses. And, I just think that, it brought them together, but also, it was tough for them. So, I just hope that we can keep it all in one place next year. And
It's in two places, just having really kind of a more complete marketing plan in general, where it's just more comprehensive. So it's kind of like events are here, but it's not this like two groups doing it. One group that was doing the main marketing of it to include the business activities.
Next will be the American Legion, Dennis or Roy.
I ran out of spots at the table.
No comments?
Comments?
And then fireworks, Brian.
So we had a really good shoot. I think most people enjoyed it. We did have a very good, I guess, what we would say success on firing. We only had 2 4-inch shells and 3 5-inch shells not fire. So out of 584 go off. So that was very good. Probably one of the better ones we've had. Every single cake and slice in the front end went off without a fail. So it was very nice. A lot of positive comments on the Let's Talk Wellington and Facebook pages. It was a very trying year this year. We had incredible price increases. We had incredible product shortages. I actually drove to Indiana to pick up half of the show because I couldn't get it from my other supplier here, and had to, take the cost of that on and stuff. And just finding product around was very difficult. It does look like 2023 will be continue to go up. I just got told that a container in 2019, I know this for a fact, was $6,500 to ship a hazmat container from China to Los Angeles. Last year was $38,000, and this year it's closer to $43,400. So prices will be going up some Fortunately, they won't be going up like they did from 20 to 20 or 21 to 22. But other than that, it went off real well. We did have issues with the fact that the county commissioners decided to put a fireworks ban 2 days, 3 days before the 4th of July, whatever day. We worked with Everett, and although there were some demands made, I just want to make sure we understand that it's not my responsibility to provide the field. It's my responsibility to set the shoot up and shoot it. I do the entire display area, which is probably where 90% of the what do you want to say, the fallout that could cause a problem will land, and then very little gets out. Some does, but not all of it does, but very little does. And so we had no issues with fire. We were asked to mow everything from the fence to Cameron. We didn't do that. That's not our real response. I think actually that would make things a lot worse, because then that'll be dead grass laying everywhere in the fallout zone. So, other than that, I think we did well. We struggled with help. We normally ask for 8 people to help us with the set up the show. We did have 8 on Sunday, and then when Monday rolled around, we had 5. And so we had to put in a lot of hours on the 4th of July, but we got it all set up.